The Beatitudes Decoded. The spiritual science of Jesus' most misunderstood teachings. What if everything you thought you knew about the Beatitudes was wrong? What if these weren't just beautiful moral platitudes, but precise instructions for ascending through levels of consciousness? Today, we're going to decode the hidden spiritual science behind Jesus' most revolutionary teaching. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the Essenes called these the steps of light and how modern psychology is finally catching up to ancient wisdom. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're living in a world that makes no sense? Like everyone around you is sleepwalking through life while you're desperately searching for something deeper? You're not alone. And you're not crazy. You're awakening. And what you're about to discover has been hidden in plain sight for 2,000 years. The Dead Sea Scrolls revealed something extraordinary about the Beatitudes that traditional Christianity has completely missed. The Essenes, the mystical Jewish sect that many scholars believe Jesus was connected to, didn't see these as moral guidelines. They understood them as a precise map of consciousness transformation. Each blessing represents a vibrational state, a frequency of being that literally rewires your neural pathways and shifts your reality. Carl Jung spent decades studying this exact phenomenon. He called it individuation, the process of integrating the unconscious with the conscious mind to achieve psychological wholeness. But what Jung discovered through years of analysis, the ancient mystics encoded in 8 simple statements. Let's break this down step by step, because what you're about to learn will change how you see everything. The first Beatitude, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." This has been mistranslated for centuries. Poor in spirit doesn't mean spiritually bankrupt, it means empty of ego identification. The Aramaic word miskena means surrendered or flexible. It's the recognition that your current identity, your personality, your story about who you are, is just a construct. Jung called this the dissolution of the persona. It's the moment you realize that everything you thought was you is actually just programming, social conditioning, family patterns, cultural beliefs. When you become poor in spirit, you're saying, "I don't know who I am anymore, and I'm okay with that." This is terrifying for most people because we're addicted to our identity. But here's the thing, until you're willing to die to who you think you are, you can't be reborn as who you actually are. The kingdom of heaven isn't a place you go when you die. It's a state of consciousness you can access right now, but only when you stop defending your small self. The second Beatitude, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." This isn't about grief over death, this is about mourning the death of your illusions. When you start waking up, you grieve. You grieve the time you wasted, the relationships that were built on lies, the dreams that weren't really yours but were implanted by society. The Essenes understood this as the dark night of the soul, that inevitable period when you see through the matrix but haven't yet found your new ground. Jung called it the encounter with the shadow. It's when all the parts of yourself you've rejected, all the pain you've suppressed, all the truth you've avoided comes flooding back. But here's the profound part. The comfort doesn't come from outside. The comfort comes from finally being authentic. When you stop pretending, when you stop performing, when you stop trying to be someone you're not, there's this incredible relief. You realize you don't have to carry all these masks anymore. The third Beatitude, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." Meek has been weaponized by religion to keep people passive, but that's not what it means at all. The original word praus means power under control. Like a wild horse that's been trained but hasn't lost its strength. It's conscious restraint, not weakness. This is about learning to work with energy instead of against it. Instead of forcing your way through life, you learn to flow with the natural currents. Instead of trying to control everyone and everything, you control yourself. This is the difference between yang-dominated consciousness and balanced masculine-feminine energy. When you master this, you literally inherit the earth because you're in harmony with natural law. You're not fighting reality anymore, you're dancing with it. Things start aligning. Synchronicities increase, opportunities appear. It's not magic, it's physics. You've learned to work with the field instead of against it. The fourth Beatitude, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Forget what you think righteousness means. The Aramaic word tzaddik means alignment with divine order, not moral superiority, but cosmic alignment. It's the intense longing to live in harmony with the deeper patterns of existence. This is where the spiritual seeker is born. You develop this overwhelming thirst for truth, for authenticity, for meaning. You can't be satisfied anymore with surface-level existence. You need to know, what is this all for? What is my purpose? How does this all fit together? Jung recognized this as the transcendent function, the psyche's drive toward wholeness and meaning. It's not optional. Once this hunger awakens in you, you can't go back to sleep. You will be filled, but not with what you expected. You'll be filled with understanding, with presence, with a direct knowing of your place in the cosmic order. The fifth Beatitude, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. This is about forgiveness, but not the kind you think. True mercy begins with self-forgiveness, when you realize that everyone, including you, is just doing the best they can with their current level of consciousness. Judgment becomes impossible. The Essenes understood this as the law of reflection. What you put out comes back to you. But it's deeper than karma. When you show mercy to others, you're actually showing mercy to disowned parts of yourself. Everyone who triggers you is reflecting something you haven't accepted about yourself. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. When you start seeing every difficult person as a mirror, when you start asking, how am I like this person that I'm judging? You begin to integrate your shadow. And paradoxically, as you become more merciful with yourself, the world becomes more merciful with you. The sixth Beatitude, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Pure in heart doesn't mean morally perfect, it means undivided consciousness, single-pointed awareness, the heart that's not split between what it wants and what it thinks it should want. When your desires align with your values, when your actions match your words, when your inner world and outer world are coherent, that's purity of heart. This is what the mystics call witness consciousness, the ability to observe your own mind without being caught in its stories. When you achieve this state, you literally see differently. The veil lifts. You start recognizing the divine intelligence in everything, in nature, in people, in situations, in challenges. You're not seeing God as some separate entity out there. You're seeing the God pattern, the divine blueprint that underlies all of existence. Modern neuroscience is beginning to understand this. When the default mode network in the brain quiets down, people consistently report feelings of unity, interconnectedness, and sacred presence. The seventh Beatitude, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. This isn't about external peacekeeping. This is about inner reconciliation, the war between your conscious and unconscious mind, the battle between your higher self and your wounded ego, the conflict between your authentic nature and your conditioned patterns. Jung spent his entire career working on this integration. He called it the union of opposites, the marriage of shadow and light, masculine and feminine, thinking and feeling, knowing and being. When you make peace with all the parts of yourself, when you stop trying to be good and start trying to be whole, you become a peacemaker in the world. People feel it around you. They sense that you're not at war with yourself, and it gives them permission to lay down their own weapons. This is how consciousness shifts from the inside out. You become a living example of integration, and that example ripples out into the world. The eighth Beatitude. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is the inevitable consequence of living authentically in an inauthentic world. When you stop participating in collective illusions, when you stop pretending that the emperor has clothes, when you start living from your truth instead of society's expectations, you will be misunderstood. You will be rejected. You will be persecuted. But here's what the mystics understood. Persecution from the sleeping world is actually confirmation that you're awake. Jesus wasn't persecuted for being nice. He was persecuted for threatening the power structures that kept people asleep. The same thing happens to anyone who chooses consciousness over conformity. The kingdom of heaven belongs to those who are willing to stand in their truth, even when everyone else thinks they're crazy. Because consciousness is not a democracy. Truth is not determined by popular vote, and your awakening is not dependent on anyone else's approval. So here's what this all means for your daily life. The Beatitudes aren't just ancient wisdom, they're a practical roadmap for navigating the consciousness shift that's happening on our planet right now. Start with the first one. Get honest about who you really are versus who you think you're supposed to be. Where are you performing instead of being authentic? What identities are you clinging to that no longer serve you? Move through mourning. Let yourself grieve the life you thought you were supposed to have. Grieve the dreams that weren't really yours. Grieve the time you spent trying to fit into boxes that were never meant for you. Practice conscious restraint. Instead of reacting to every trigger, pause. Ask yourself, what is this situation trying to teach me? How can I respond from wisdom instead of woundedness? Follow your authentic hunger. What makes you come alive? What problems do you feel called to solve? What legacy do you want to leave? Stop apologizing for your desires and start following them. Extend mercy, especially to yourself. Forgive your mistakes. Forgive your ignorance. Forgive your unconscious participation in systems that harmed others. You can't change the past, but you can change your relationship to it. Seek coherence. Align your inner world with your outer world. If your actions don't match your values, change your actions. If your relationships don't support your growth, change your relationships. If your career doesn't express your purpose, change your career. Make peace with all parts of yourself. Your anger, your fear, your jealousy, your shame, these aren't enemies to be defeated. They're messengers to be understood. They're parts of your psyche that need integration, not elimination. And finally, prepare to be misunderstood. The more authentic you become, the more you'll trigger other people's inauthenticity. The more conscious you become, the more you'll expose other people's unconsciousness. This isn't your fault, and it's not your responsibility to make everyone comfortable with your growth. The Beatitudes aren't moral commands from an external authority. They're a description of what happens when consciousness evolves. They're the natural stages every soul goes through on the journey from identification to individuation, from separation to unity, from fear to love. 2,000 years ago, a Jewish mystic tried to teach us that the kingdom of heaven isn't a place we go when we die. It's a state of consciousness we can access right now. The Essenes preserved this teaching. Jung rediscovered it. And now it's your turn to live it. Your awakening isn't just for you. Every person who chooses consciousness over conformity, authenticity over approval, truth over comfort, makes it easier for the next person to wake up. You're not just healing yourself, you're healing the collective. The question is, are you ready to be blessed? Are you ready to step into the kingdom of consciousness? Are you ready to become who you were always meant to be? The choice is yours. It always has been. It always will be. If this resonated with you, you know what to do. Subscribe for more hidden wisdom decoded. Share this with someone who's ready to wake up. And let me know in the comments. Which of the Beatitudes is speaking to you right now? Where are you in this journey of consciousness? Remember, you're not on this path by accident. There are no coincidences in the awakening process. You found this video because you're ready for what it contains. Keep seeking, keep questioning, keep growing. The kingdom of heaven is within you, and it's time to reclaim it. Until next time, stay awake.